Okay, they said they're ready. I'm gonna start the call. Wait, can I get on video with them?
Oh,
Yo,
Okay, hello?
hello.
your camera's so high quality, mine's so bad.
Me?
Yeah,
Oh wow, this is like a webcam from 10 years ago.
We work at a modern games company, sir.
Dude, I was there for lunch today. It was really good.
Yeah,
You
Diner Food's great.
okay. Sorry, one sec, setting it up on my stream. Okay, awesome. Thank you guys for taking the time out of your day to do this. We got an hour, right? So I don't know. I'm not really a pro at doing this by any means. So I'm just gonna ask a bunch of questions I had about the game that I think the community has about the game as well. And then I was gonna save like the last 10, 15 minutes to just give over to my chat, and they can ask you some questions as well, because I think we have a lot of passionate people in the chat as well.
Sounds good.
Okay. I divided the questions I had into being about the ranked matchmaking system as well as game balance. So I think I'll just go in order, starting with the questions I had about the ranked matchmaking system. Okay.
cool. Far away.
Probably the number one question slash concern I had on my mind is about the LP system. Um, So the LP system has gone through some really interesting changes this season, and it changes a bit every year. Actually, I remember back when Challenger first became a thing, and the LP system was fairly new. 500 LP, you would be Challenger, and like the highest players on the ladder were like 1,000 LP. And then I distinctly remember this number just continuing to kind of creep up and up each year. I remember a few years ago, Chovy hit like 2,000 LP on the Korean server, and this was like a monumental achievement. And now I think the other day some player hit 5,000 LP on the European server, so that feels pretty weird to me. That the fact that it gets inflated higher and higher every year. I remember gains and losses used to be kind of anchored around like plus 10, and then it got doubled to like plus 20, minus 20, and then it got increased again to where I think on my account I'm like plus 30, minus 30, and then it gets doubled if you get the Aegis of Valor game, right? And then it becomes plus 60. So it's kind of just hard to take any of the numbers seriously. It just feels super inflated. So I guess I wanted to know, how do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, I can kind of start. I guess from an experience perspective, the LP system is there to help players feel like they have a sense of, progression. They can kind of benchmark where they are relative to other people. Um, Over time, we've kind of observed that it can be pretty dissatisfying, for example, if you're getting plus minus 10 to have to win 10 games net to go up a division. And so, like, the way that we kind of construct some of these LP breakpoints are to try and create the best feelings of, reasonable breakpoints and goals that you can strive for while also making it trying not to make it meaningless, right? And I think you could argue that, at the point where we're at 5,000 LP, it starts to become hard to understand whether or not you're good or bad. So I would say that broadly, right now, we're not super happy with the current state of it, and we want to make some changes to, try to bring it back to closer to benchmarks that players are more familiar with. So I would say that the whole point of it at a high level is to help players feel like they have a sense of progression. At the same time, we want to make it so that distinct breakpoints within the ladder don't feel too far away. So if you're like Master Zero LP and you're looking at the rank one player and they're 5,000 LP, even if you're getting plus minus 30 per win, it still feels super far away. So I'll stop there and see if you have any like follow-up questions. Otherwise, I can like just keep yapping.
Okay, so what are you guys trying to do then to bring it down to earth, so to say? Like you said, if I promote to masters and I'm like, okay, cool, masters 0 LP, and then I check OPGG and dude is 5,000 LP, I feel like that is impossible. I feel like that's futile. I feel like unless I genuinely know life the game and play thousands of games and win most of them, then I'm just never gonna get there.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that was lost in wanting to bring the skill bands tighter together for the majority of the ranked population, which we did in the first patch of this year. We were observing that a lot of the different skill bands were too wide, right? This range of skill within Diamond was extremely wide, and we wanted to constrain that. The downside of that meant that, if we made Diamond smaller, some amount of Diamond players were going to be pushed into Master tier. And so there are a lot more Master players this year, for example. And so that's where we would start. We would first work on creating more divisions within the Apex Plus population to try and help, that portion of the ladder not be so, I want to say, like, wide in terms of skill. It is overall pretty intentional that we kind of benchmark, the entry to masters at some, set of demonstrated player skills. Like, can you rotate properly? Like, can you lane at a, decent level? Can you, team fight at a decent level? Of course, depending on who you're talking to, they might disagree on what those definitions are. But overall, we don't want to have a situation where that is just purely, for example, like percentile based all the time, because that percentile gets harder and harder to maintain over time. And it becomes a master player, if you were to just benchmark that as like the top, 1% or whatever, the top 1% just gets stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger over time. And that's something that we wouldn't want to continue propagating the cycle of.
Why does the system need to be tweaked like all the time? I feel like every year there's always like, okay, we've identified a problem with high-elo matchmaking. We're gonna fix it. Okay, we fixed it. And then like a month later, it's like, okay, actually we didn't fix it, but now we're really gonna fix it. And then a new thing gets deployed. Like I remember this season alone, there were just like so many patches in a row to the point where I thought it was like kind of a joke where it was like, okay, we fixed it. Just kidding. Okay, now I think we really figured it out. We fixed it. And then it became, this is so like messed up beyond recognition. We're going to hard reset the ladder. So what is it about high elo matchmaking that it can't really seem to just be like a stable system? Like, why does it need to be constantly tweaked all the time?
Yeah, I think there's a few reasons. One, because the makeup of the people in high MMR, like the roles that people queue for, the skills at the top end in particular, is one thing that creates a lot of destabilizing factors. And who ends up playing at certain times in the day, who ends up playing in certain patches and not playing in certain patches, really dramatically impacts who the top 1,000 players are, right? Because if you think at a high level, it's like Challenger is the top 300 players, Grandmaster is the top 1,000 players. It's pretty hard to have that be a stable population. Like some of the players, play all the time, some of the players don't. And so at any given time, that makeup of who is playing at the top ranks at any given time is very unstable. And so that's one of the reasons why it's challenging. Whereas if you were to look at gold, for example, there's just millions of people playing, right? So it's much easier for that population to be stable compared to, let's just say, like the top 1,000 people. So that's one of the reasons. The other is because we're often trying to strike the balance of improving match quality while not making queue times and other things worse, right? Because players have been complaining about, hey, I have really long queue times. Well, because there's only 1,000 people, let's just say in the top 1,000, when we're making changes to the matchmaking algorithm to try and get people into game faster without ruining match quality, that can have some destabilizing impacts on who actually gets into the game. And because the players are so skilled at punishing small skill differences, if we tweak it slightly incorrectly, then some players can, just shoot to the top. Or, it's really hard to just fine tune that balance because not everyone's playing at the same time. So does that, feel free to push back on any of that or ask clarifying questions. But that's the long and short of it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, oh, sorry. Go
Let me
ahead.
add a short version, which is also like there are basically three things that we can trade off against each other. There is how tightly skill matched the lobby is, there's how long you have to wait for it, and there's how many people are on their primary role. People want all three. Giving them all of that at the same time is not like mathematically impossible, but you're going to have to figure out which one to give up more or less of. And depending on how we make those trade-offs, people complain about different things. And so it isn't like, oh yes, here's this like perfect thing. It's just like, okay, like, do you want to wait like 5 minutes and have like worse matches? Do you want to wait 25 minutes, give up and go on your Smurf? Or like, do you want to get autofilled more? Because like, again, if there's only 1,000 people that you think you belong in a lobby with and 100 of them are online at a given time and the role mix is what it is, and you also want a fair laning matchup and like, you're just not going to get the lobbies you want with a 5-minute wait time. And so figuring out how to make those trade-offs is tricky and a conversation that we have with players all the time.
Yeah, I understand there's like a few different... Oh, I'm kind of echoing. There's like a few different benchmarks that you're trying to optimize for every single time you create a match-made game, like you said, on-roll, off-roll, overall elo, and queue time. I guess, well, my question was more like, I feel like it has been good at times, but then it will be changed in a way that makes, in my opinion, the overall experience worse. Like, I actually thought ranked was at a pretty stable spot at the beginning of the season, for example. Like, I think genuinely before a single change was made, and then it became, oh, okay, we've identified some problems, and we're going to try and optimize it for high elo players, and then it just kind of became like trying to fix this issue that just seemed to get worse and worse the more you guys tried to fix it. But I don't know. I don't want to waste too much time on the question either, because there's definitely a few more stuff I wanted to talk about.
So yeah, just to like quickly respond to that, like it was stable until a point, right? It's part of a thing where, you know, because it's a constantly changing system, like there's, you know, like I said, the people that are coming in, the people that are coming out, what preferences people at the top of the ladder have in terms of their roles and whatnot. It was probably stable for like 3 weeks, and it was like, games feel great. Everyone's really low LP. But as soon as people started hitting the top ranks and pushing into Challenger, that's where some of the small inefficiencies started to show and compound and compound and compound to the point where, you know, like issues started cropping up. And, you know, like as part of any complex system, it might be like, oh, the plane took off safely and it was like flying fine for the first like 10 minutes. And then 30 minutes in, you're like, oh crap, like actually like the engine is slowly, you know, like leaking a little bit of fuel, a little bit more. And then it just like kind of gets to the point where it like explodes. It's kind of like that type of system optimization. And so it's like really, it can get out of control very quickly, even if it like seems fine.
Okay. Different question.
Can I go back to one of the points that you made earlier about like the numbers getting higher and higher?
Yeah.
So you mentioned like sort of in the past, the highest LP number was like 2,000, and that was, you know, people past a certain point, you know, jam or challenger or whatever, getting plus 10 every win. And we changed it this year so that your net win loss is 0, right? Like you just like, the way that you climb is by racking up net wins. And so I think that there's a trade-off there, which is if you make each win worth a lower amount of LP, then you can make it look like that climb is not that high. But if you measure it in terms of net wins, I don't actually know how much it's changed. It's just that we changed what do you get for a net win at different points from this like, I don't know, logarithmic function or like this like stepped logarithmic function to a linear one, right? And so arguably that's just more honest, right? You need however many net wins to get to the top. And there are people who have gotten that and there are people who haven't. And if you want to be rank 1, then you have to be good enough to get a bunch of net wins in Master and GM and Challenger. And if not, then who's to say that you're actually better than the person who has?
Yeah, I think that is a great point. That actually segues to my next question I was going to ask, which is, why does this LP system even exist? Because I remember back in my day, as an early season player, we had the ELO system, we had MMR, that truly reflected your skill level in the game, your MMR value that was directly used for matchmaking. And when you loaded up into a lobby, it would be, this was like before roll queue even. So, you know, you loaded into a lobby, you could see who the higher ranked players, how the lower ranked players were. I don't know if this, it didn't feel like to me it made the game any more toxic, but there was sort of a hierarchy. And then like the higher ranked player could get their main role. You know, the lower ranked players would fill and play the more supportive roles. And that felt like cool to me. Now it feels like we have this very convoluted LP system, which has caused so many problems, so many headaches. So my question is like, why does this LP system even exist? Like, I guess I can understand for casual players this artificial feeling of progressing through the ranks, like, oh, awesome, I was like platinum, and then now this season I'm like emerald, even though I don't know if anything really changed in the true ranked distribution of where this person lies percentile wise. But why does it exist in Apex ranks where I think it is continuing to just be like really strange? Like, I remember reading a stat at some point where mid laners were overrepresented than what you would expect in the overall challenger population because of Aegis of Protection. I think mid laners were on average being filled more often, auto-filled more, so they had to play more autofill games, and I think mid laners are naturally like a bit more flexible at playing other roles maybe compared to other roles. So it just created this weird situation where, again, the ladder was kind of being destabilized by all these people that are getting plus 60 per win and like minus 0 per loss. And then you guys changed it again like a few weeks ago where now you still lose if you still lose LP if you lose an autofill game. But I just don't understand why it has to exist if we could just have MMR.
Yeah, start us off, Drew, and then I can talk a bit about like the mechanical reasons why.
There's like half a dozen reasons. I'll touch on a few. I'm sure Matt will cover the rest. So one of them is just like metaphor is valuable, right? Like there is something real about having the ranked system exist as part of the world of League of Legends. I think that if you go to, you know, someone and you're like, oh, like I hit 2,000, league points, people will be like, what the fuck does that mean? And you're like, oh, it's diamond. And it's just like, oh, okay, cool. Like, nice. I know what that means. Like, there is meaning that is attached to that through, you know, people's experiences, time, like the structures of the game. And I think that distilling all of that down, stripping all of the metaphor out of it is actually like not a great experience. You don't want to do that all the time from like a design level. On the like, why would we reward some things with LP more than others? Part of it is people one trick. And so you can get into situations where if someone plays, you know, their best champ, they win, I don't know, 60% of the time with it. If they play any other role, any other champ, they just like can't win nearly as much. How good are they? Well, it depends on whether or not they get their champ, right? And so, you know, in the era where you played more, you had to be able to play multiple roles, right? Like pre-role select, you couldn't rely on getting mid all of the time. And so the nature of skill was necessarily blended. As role select has gotten more and more a part of people's baseline expectations, as people demand, like, I want my primary role more of the time, I want it all of the time, like, I'm not really even playing League if you're not giving me my primary role. Like, people define what that skill is in relationship to what they see as the peak of their abilities. Part of what we talked about for season 16 was how do we bring back some of the benefit of being able to do more than one thing? And how do we factor that into how the ranked system tells you you are a good player or not? If you can play exactly RE mid and nothing else, are you as good as someone who can play a bunch of champions, a bunch of roles, about as well as that person can play RE mid? Yeah, I think that you're a better League of Legends player than that person who needs that champion, that role all the time. And so part of LP as an identity and a reputation system is being able to factor that in. Go ahead, Matt.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. I was gonna say, do you have any like thoughts or like pushback or response to any of that?
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead then.
Okay. The first part of that, I can understand it's important to have this value that corresponds to like, oh, I am this rank in the game. I'm just saying, like back then, Elo directly correlated with the reflected rank. It's like now we have Elo reflects LP reflects rank. Whereas I don't know why we can't just cut out this middleman that kind of feels like a phony number to me. Like I personally don't really feel anything when it's like, oh, I got double LP for an Aegis game, because I know that it's not like my MMR is being doubled. It doesn't really like change anything about what the game thinks my reflected skill level is. And to be honest, the second part I just didn't really see how it answered my question at all. But I will let you go ahead, PHROXON.
Yeah. So just to expand more on the first point. So I think one thing that's pretty important is through the history of League of Legends, we've always made massive changes at season start. Maybe massive, sometimes smaller, right? We want to separate the ability for someone to play that content well and demonstrate the skill at playing that content from what are the quality of your matches, right? Like the idea of, hey, can you demonstrate that you are still a diamond player playing, the season 1 content without making you drop to literally like gold, right? Like, do we want players to be able to, we want to be able to have a method of having players be able to demonstrate their longevity. And it also acts as kind of like a shock absorber for players going on streaks. Like players go on a lot of streaks. If we say that every game when you're loading in is like a 50% chance to win, let's just say, right? And to be clear, this is not, forcing players to have a 50% win rate. This is like when we load into a game, it is a fair match, right? Like, which should be the goal of matchmaking. If we assume that premise, right, let's just say, 50% chance to win the game when you load in, you're going to have situations where you just like lose 8 in a row or you win 8 in a row. Should we then have the player say, hey, like you went all the way from diamond to emerald because you just went on an unlucky streak? Or should we say, hey, like actually, are you actually really diamond if you're an emerald player and you just won 9 in a row and shortly after you're going to lose 9 in a row, right? Like, do we actually want that? Like the player, we need a way to basically have, we know that happens. That just happens as a result of making fair matches. So we need to have some kind of, I guess I would call it like a smoothing factor to be able to absorb shock in, what would be fair matchmaking, right? Because that just happens as a result of having people load into fair games. So in my mind, LP functions for a multitude of reasons. One, it lets players have a way of, like playing a bunch of games that allows them to, experience a sense of progression. When we make large changes to the game, we can say, hey, retest your skills, player. But also, we're not going to like completely screw over all the match quality as a result of just like dropping everyone's MMR arbitrarily, right? So the idea that we can, evaluate consistency as well as have some of that shock absorber in place, because yeah, flipping a coin, 30 times in a row is extremely random, right? Like it can go up and down a lot. And do we want that to be so in the forefront of a player's mind where it's like, ah, shit, like I'm gold. I lost 17 games in a row because that just happens sometimes. And it's like, am I now bronze, right? Like that's a lot of the reason why, from an experiential level, that type of system is also valuable.
There's one other thing that I would add specifically for really high skill players, and this is sort of thinking back to a conversation I had like a week ago with someone in High Challenger in the EU, where they were complaining about matchmaking, and they were like, "Hey, like this lobby seems fucked because I have this level 40 or whatever account in my lobby. Why is this person here?" And it raises the conflict between wanting to be very fast and precise about evaluating players' skill versus giving people a sense that they are actually going to have to work for their rank, right? Like if you make another account tomorrow and we figure out that you're really good and you're playing mid, and you are a challenger quality player, how long should it take for you to get to challenger? Like, how many games before we put you in challenger lobbies, and how long before we literally like tell you, yo, you're challenger? Is it 5? Like, if we can figure it out in 5, should we put you in challenger 5 games in?
I think so, yeah, if it was able to determine that. I don't think the system really takes into account in-game metrics, right? Like, if I'm going 50-0 in bronze lobbies, I don't think it's going to, like, accelerate my gains. Is that right?
Right. So like, if Viper makes 100 accounts tomorrow, and we can figure out within 5 games that, like, all of them are Viper, should Viper just, like, be the only person in challenger?
Well,
Because you just said that, like, if someone's challenger, we should just put them in challenger, right? But if Viper's the best player on the ladder and he just makes a bunch of accounts, then why not make them all challenger?
I don't see how that would happen because he can't play against himself. I thought the point you're trying to make. Oh, if he was like somehow playing against himself in.
No, not playing against himself, but like, he makes an account, he plays 5 games, he hits challenger. He makes another account, he plays 5 games, he hits challenger. Like, what's to stop him from just being 1 through 100 in challenger?
well, then yeah, I think if he's that good, I think if he's that much better than everyone, and if he had that much time to do that, then yeah, I think he should take every single spot. I mean, it's just like him being rank 1 and rank 2, just applied to a higher scale. I mean, it's like physically impossible, but I don't see a problem with that now.
So part of the problem, right, is there is some balance between raw skill and your ability to consistently express it over time, right? Like, it's not just if you can win in challenger lobbies, you belong in challenger. It's being able to demonstrate that, yes, you can consistently do that.
Tell them thank you for giving my queen Akali back to me.
I'm sorry, I don't think I quite follow.
So, like, if we can figure out that Viper's really good in 5 games,
yes,
then we can set a matchmaking rating for Viper that says, hey, you're really, really fucking good. Part of what rank is, though, is the sense that you have earned the ability to call yourself the best. It's not like some black box where nobody knows, like, why, Riot's secret algorithm put you at the top of the ladder one day because your account spawned and you were really good. It's like, no, you have to earn it. You have to beat all of these people. You have to, like, show consistently you can win in these lobbies. And that is part of what makes it understandable for people. It's part of what creates community and identity around, like, yeah, you belong here. People know who you are. You've beaten them, and you are able to consistently perform. If you can't do that, then you won't make challenger. You won't stay in challenger, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So part of it is not just according to our algorithm, do we think that you're really good? Part of it also has to be, can you demonstrate that over time? And what does it mean for it to be like over time? And that, I think, gets into the blend of our ability to assess your skill and your ability to demonstrate it repeatedly, consistently in Matt's language, in a way that causes you to pass other people on a ladder.
Okay. I think I get it now. Sorry, the analogy kind of threw me off, but I think I get the point you're trying to make.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like I guess I would call LP like a consistency modifier on skill that also acts as like a shock absorber for just going on streaks, which just happens when you flip a coin. Like, there are a lot of times when you, I don't know, like play roulette or you just flip coins. It's like, okay, yeah, like you get heads or tails 7 times in a row sometimes, right? Like, and that allows the system to be like allow players to demonstrate consistency, which we think is pretty important. Because even if we were able to, like, you would say that, what determines someone being the GOAT in a sport or in League, right? It's like, hey, the ability to play at a top level kind of repeatedly, right? It's not just, hey, can you have one game where you're the best? And that's what LP tries to account for.
Okay. Sorry, trying to be mindful of time. I'm gonna change to a different topic, which I didn't really. It's about losers queue, supposed losers queue, which I don't really think exists, and I thought it was like a hilarious conspiracy meme when people first started talking about this concept of like losers queue. Like Riot intentionally tries to put you in these like frustrating loss streaks. I would joke that like I've been to Riot headquarters and like Freak has a room where he just has like thousands of paid interns that like manually set matches for players to like keep them engaged. And like, you know, so that's, I thought it was a joke, but I am actually curious. I think in what is the term? EOMM, like engagement optimized matchmaking. Is that a system that exists in League of Legends solo queue?
No.
No.
I'll give you like 4 different ways to think about this, and you can tell me which one is more or less persuasive for you.
Okay.
So like one is just like factually we don't do that. I mean, we chatted with Azap about it yesterday. I think that this one appeals to people who like want to understand how systems work, but for a bunch of other people it's going to fall short because I'm going to give you the answer and they're going to say, oh, well, like we can't trust you. Like we don't know what's in the thing. Anyway, what's in the thing is we have MMR, we have your role preference, we have whether or not you're duoed. And that is, I'm pretty sure it. Matt, are we missing anything? It's like those 3 things.
Yeah, there's some stuff for like blue side and red side because of camera angle and yeah.
Yeah, red side is very, very slightly better. But like, that's it. We don't have models of your emotional state. We don't have an awareness of like whether or not you lost the last game. Like none of that shit goes into how you get match made for the next game. Some people don't accept that and they're like, no, like it's they're controlling the brainwaves. So another perspective, a bit more logical. One of the arguments that people make that's sort of an argument from consequence is, oh, well, how would Riot enforce, like Riot tries to enforce a 50% win rate. And the way that they do that is by giving me worse teammates as I win more to eventually drag me down. This is a narrativization of a real thing that happens as a result of skill-based matchmaking, which is as you win more games, your MMR goes up and then you get put in harder lobbies. And you are playing against people who are better. And then you are more likely to lose because you're probably not as good as the lobby that you just got put into, unless, of course, you are, in which case you'll keep climbing even further. At the very, very top of the ladder, right? Like if you are the rank 1 challenger, it is factually true that everyone else in your lobby, all 9 players, are going to be worse than you. And that part of how we try to balance out your contribution to your team's collective skill is by giving you not the next best 4 players in that lobby, because we think that you are going to have some amount of carry potential. I know that you've talked about this as like, yes, that is an exhausting experience to like be the best person on the team. And structurally, like from a lobby construction perspective, sort of have to carry, but also like someone has to be the best person on every team. And from a win expectation perspective, the best player on the team needs to contribute more than 1/5 of the win equity. And so like, that's just sort of the nature of putting 5 people against 5 people and like asking them to do well. The third one is, what about Smurfs, right? Like we've been working hard to like cut down on smurfing in a bunch of ways over the last year, but like it is just factually true that a bunch of challenger players for years would go buy silver accounts and fucking annihilate silver and gold and plat games. And so in a world where losers queue existed, you have to accept that there is also a way to be so good that you can break out of it, right? If you're a challenger, you can basically win all of your games, which means that there is some point at which you become skilled enough that your individual contribution can overcome the difference in the lower quality of your teammates, which means that, again, skilled players climb. And so that's just like another argument I haven't really seen addressed by the people who want to make a lot of hay out of this sort of conspiracy thing. Happy to hear pushback, hear alternative arguments, get pushed on any of it.
No, I mean, for the record, I don't think Loser's Queue is real either. Like I said at the beginning, I just wanted to know what you guys thought about it, because I was like, haha, what a funny joke for a while. But I think a lot of players actually do believe in the existence of Loser's Queue. I mean,
I think that people want to tell themselves stories about variance, right? Like, I played Magic at a decently high level for a while, like a decade and a half ago. People want to tell bad beat stories. They want their losses to not be their fault. And people reach for rationalizations for like why they should have won but didn't, because they want to see themselves as better than they are. Like, this is just like a deeply like gamer thing to do. And in League, the variance is your teammates, right? The variance is the outcomes of their laning phases. And so if your teammate gets stumped in lane, your game is harder because your fucking top laner went 0-5, and so now you have to deal with an enemy top laner that started out 5-0. And so like that is there isn't like a concise term for it. And so I think that part of what people talk about when they talk about Loser's Queue is not like some grand conspiracy perpetrated by the matchmaking team. I think that some of them at least use it metaphorically to mean like, yeah, like I just got the shittier teammates, and so like my game is going to be harder and I can't carry, and so I'm going to lose for reasons that are outside of my control and outside of like my contribution, right? I did well, they didn't, we lose anyway. That is part of the nature of a MOBA. I think that even if people in that moment would want us to change it, long run, it is one of the things that is like very essentially and foundationally part of that genre. And removing it would do way more harm than good.
Well, there's also like a self-fulfilling prophecy aspect of this, right? Like if I'm on a 5-loss streak, right? Like what's the chance that I'm going to be, if I queue up for my 6th game, what's the chance that I'm going to be playing in peak performance and you know, like perform at the best, you know, level that I could? Like, it's pretty low, right? You're probably going to be pretty tilted. You're probably going to like notice the top laner going 0-2 and be like, here we go again, even though if I had played properly in that game, we probably could have and would have won, right? And so there is certainly like some psychological aspect of this from the players in losing situations sometimes, where it's like, oh, well, I noticed this thing, I pattern matched it to a thing that happened before, therefore I'm gonna like kind of give up on the game and like self-sabotage.
I've never done that before.
That just happens. So yeah, I mean, I've had that happen to me before too, right? Like sometimes I had like a 7-loss streak the other week, and I was like, oh man, I'm playing really bad right now. I should stop playing, but I just queued up for my 8th game, and lo and behold, I lost again, right? Like, I don't know, like, it just happens. So yeah. Also, like, all that data is like, people can scrape the match histories. Like, some person did a study on it a few years ago, and they were like, hey, we scraped it. We tried to find evidence of this, and it doesn't exist. So, like, I don't know. Obviously, we don't need to do that because, you know, we don't have it. But if you were really curious, you could. Just look.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. Again, being mindful of time here. Gonna change topics to some questions and concerns I had about the game. I think you guys have addressed this already, so we don't need to spend too much time on it. I think, PHROXON, you posted like a very detailed video on your YouTube channel about it, and it's being addressed next patch. But yeah, just roaming supports, River Camille, River Shen, mage bot lanes, ADC top lanes, just like everything just feeling a bit weird. How do you guys feel that there's all these... I feel like the systems in the game have become more convoluted and complex over time. I think role quests were a really extreme step of something that is limiting and restrictive about the game that I think you guys implemented partially to try and increase a more fulfilling personal satisfaction of the role, but also to like try and completely remove strategies like lane swapping, things that we see in pro that aren't really applicable to the game that you and I play all the time. It kind of just feels like even though there are constantly more and more restrictive systems being placed on the game, there's just like these weird strategies that keep coming up, and then it's just like more and more, I don't know how to describe it, like more and more restrictions that make the game more complex and strange to play, keeping added to try and fix these, but more issues crop up. Yeah, how do you feel about that?
So one thing I would say is this is just a natural evolution of games and of sports in general. Like look at how many rules there are in basketball or in baseball compared to when it first started, right? Like there's all these rules about who you can throw to and when and at what times and when you can do whatever, right? Like as people get more and more sophisticated at playing a game, there are just more and more strategies that kind of undermine the nature of how the initial game designer designed the game. I'm sure when someone was like, yeah, we're gonna make basketball and people are gonna throw the ball in the hoop, and then you you have five people on the court and you need to stop the other person from throwing the ball in the hoop. It's like no one's doing, like crazy complicated, you know, insane strategies, but at some point someone breaks the game and then they need to put a rule in to kind of stop that, right? And over League's history, it's been things like funnel or support top or roaming supports or, insert whatever thing, like just any number of things like tri-laning or any of these types of things. So we're trying to, one of the things that's a challenge with a constantly optimized game is trying to keep the spirit of what the designers envisioned and what the players, like doing and not have that undermined by some other optimal strategy that's just like kind of, really weird, right? So at the same time, we also want to embrace player creativity, right? And so it's always this delicate balance of, okay, well, players overall like to do this thing, but they don't like this thing. So how do we stop that thing while also allowing players to express their creativity? So that's one of the reasons why it can get so convoluted and why we need kind of rules to, hamstring this behavior, but allow, this slice of it. Like maybe we like supports being able to roam sometimes, but not from level 1 to 5, which is literally the set of changes that we make, right? Like we're like, oh, okay, well we're kind of fine with supports roaming up for grubs or whatever, but we probably don't like them just abandoning the lane at level 1 and just like hitting someone with Halo Blades Camille or something, right? So that's a lot of why. Yeah, any thoughts on that?
No, I mean that makes sense. Something I had adjacent to that was I feel like there have been changes to the game. Roaming support is one of the, I don't know, factors results in this, but I just feel like laning phase just doesn't really seem to matter as much as I think it used to as someone who's played the game all this time. I'll just say, like, straight up, especially as a top laner, it would feel so incredibly bullshit to just be winning 1v1 the whole time. Oh, okay, I guess there's like a Camille E flashing on me, level 2, just been like ganking me. He's ganked me 9 times this game, and I've survived every single time. But okay, this 10th time I died, and that just feels horrible. So in that sense, I feel like laning has become a bit less important, and I think that was a big way in which players, or how I felt I had control, individual impact in the game, was at least I can have like a solid good lane phase, win my lane. And I feel like there's multiple reasons as to why it doesn't feel as satisfying. I think home guards is another huge one, especially for mid lane. You can kind of just slowly lose your HP bar through getting out lane for like 5 minutes straight. Oh, okay, I'm gonna base, I'm gonna home guards back to lane on a cannon wave and miss nothing. Yeah.
So yeah, overall, like I agree, right? Like I think for the highest skill players in the game, it is certainly true that laning advantages matter less than they used to. Part of that is because high skill players will often optimize their ability to like lose gracefully, right? Like if we threw you into versing season 3 version of you, like you would completely like annihilate season 3 version of you, right? Players were just not very good at I won't say not very good. The game just hadn't been out long enough for people to figure out how to avoid dying in a matchup where they were going to lose, right? And so they would just die. Nowadays, it's like, oh, okay, well, like I'm in a pretty bad spot. I could just got to take a bad recall, right? Or you can like kind of forecast what's going to happen a lot better. And so players don't tend to die or tend to give up those advantages as easily. One of the intentional shifts that we've made with the home guard and stuff is we need to keep adapting our design sensibilities with who is playing League of Legends. And as, you know, people who've been playing since beta or whatever, like we've been playing this game for what, like 16 years. Like players coming into the game nowadays are not as patient as we were when we were starting, right? Like there was a lot of StarCraft or a lot of RTSs, or people were playing chess. Like, you know, people didn't have TikTok or Instagram.
Yeah, everyone has TikTok brain now.
Yeah, and so we need to do the best balance of trying to keep those types of like strategy, chess battles, slow paced stuff that you and I or Drew, you know, playing Magic or whatever, like might resonate a lot with, and we really enjoy that slow chess match. When we get new players into the game, the thing they tell us is laning phase is boring. I don't understand why we have this. Like it's isolating.
No
It
way,
just
that's
doesn't feel
crazy.
satisfying, right? And in fact, it's one of the major pain points that they have when they try and play Summoner's Rift. And so we need to try and balance those types of sensibilities together and try and make a game that fits for many different audiences. So that's one of the reasons why we added the home guards, why we have over time made laning phase a little bit faster, right? It's not because we don't like strategy. Like I like strategy. I personally enjoy being able to like play Victor or Oriana or whatever and slowly eke out an advantage. But a lot of players don't actually like that. And so we need to make sure that we're keeping our sensibilities up to date with like who's actually playing. So that's kind of like the high level of it.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, I have. I guess I have time for like one more, and then I was gonna turn it over to my chat. Let me decide. There is a sense that I get, especially now that I've gotten to play Classic a bit. Obviously, jungle and support are way stronger than it used to be. I think back then there was like problems finding players to like play those roles because they were too weak, unsatisfying to play, completely beholden to like the team to carry them. So I think the game over the year has greatly increased the strength of jungle and support. I think that is anyone could say that. But I wonder sometimes like if it's gone a bit too far in that direction. Like it feels kind of crazy to me, especially again now that I have the context of playing Classic again, that you pretty much as a laner just have to survive every single timer that the jungle and support have to throw at you. And back then, and maybe it was definitely skewed too far towards the laners, but it doesn't feel good that I can't really punish their jungler as hard as I wish I could. Whereas if I don't respect the jungler a single time, you know, my game could be completely ruined. That never really felt great for me. And even if I do survive every single time against their jungler or support who's trying to interfere with my game, gank me, pressure me, it's not like they end up in a bad spot later on in the game. In fact, they're completely just at the same level as me. Like a jungler who full clears 10 times in a row and like camps my lane after every single full clear is just going to be at the same point as me in the game, or even like kind of ahead, it feels like, as a laner. And that just doesn't feel good to me. That he can pressure me that hard and I can't pressure him back.
Yeah, I don't disagree with what you're saying for what it's worth. As a fellow mid laner, I also, you know, am at the mercy of junglers sometimes. But it's like, I do think that overall, jungle is a bit more powerful than we intend, right? Like, and one of the reasons why we're trying to, especially on the top end, like bring the top end down. Sundered Sky, I think, is like a pretty major contributor to this. Especially in the higher levels of play where it's like an item that gives a lot of everything. When comboed with, you know, these strong level 6 ultimate spikers, it can, you know, feel like the game is pretty much run by the jungler. And certainly in different skill brackets, jungle is one of those types of roles that scales with agency. So we are still on the hunt to figure out ways that we can make jungle appropriately powerful at different skill brackets, because for regular players, for example, jungle is not the strongest role. for high skill players, jungle probably is the strongest role, or one of the strongest roles, right? So we want to find a way that, you know, we can make it, you know, each of the roles balanced well for each of the different skill brackets, and that is just a eternal struggle, because, like I said before, people keep finding new strategies and optimizing certain things that make them more or less powerful. So that's a long way of saying, agree, there are some situations and some ways that jungle and support manifest their power. In particular, the roaming support aspect of it is something that we are not super happy with, and so we want to take a swing at that. Sundered Sky junglers at the highest levels, not super happy with either, and wanted to take a swing at that. So we're trying to find ways to, you know, surgically adjust certain aspects of the power level so that it's in a better spot. Yeah.
Okay. All right, awesome. I'm going to turn it over to my chat. Maybe they can answer, maybe you guys can answer a couple questions, and then I think we can wrap it up. Yeah, we're coming up on almost an hour. So I'm going to pull up my chat here, and I guess you guys can just answer to anything you think sounds interesting.
Yeah, how about you pick for us?
Okay.
Okay,
I'll pick, sure.
I'm just a slow YouTuber. I can read comments that have been posted.
Okay. Actually, this is a good one. This is one I had on the list. From Laser Sniped. Is there still a reason why we can't see what our opponent's roles are in Champion Select once all of the champions are selected, so that we can adjust our runes, summoner spells, for matchup, especially in this current season where everything is a flex pick, you know? They lock in Shen. Okay, cool. Is that top? Is that jungle? Is that support? Is that AD? I don't know.
Yeah. This is something that we started hearing, I want to say, like, I don't know, a few months ago. I think Vagar V2 was the person pushing it the hardest or the earliest. It's been a discussion internally. It requires like some amount of work, but like no sort of principled opposition to it, right? Like it makes sense. You want to know like what your lane matchup is. You want to be able to make strategic choices with your runes in a way that like lets you envision how the matchup is going to play out and reward your matchup knowledge, reward your familiarity with the game. Leaving that up to chance or like asking you to flip a bunch of coins is like not a great feeling, especially if you hit loading screen and you're like, ah, shit, like I'm wrong. Like I'm into, you know, the melee champion that I thought was their jungler and is actually their top laner. And like I took a bunch of survivability because I thought that their ranged top laner was, you know, going top, and they're not. They're actually like some weird fucking support. So yeah, that's something that we're looking at. But yeah, no reason that we can really think of to like not do it. It will just involve some amount of work. Obviously, everything has trade-offs, but
okay. So you guys agree, and you're aware,
conceptually aligned with rationale, yeah.
Okay, cool. I have a lot of chatters in general asking about top lane, specifically how bad it feels to blind pick, get counterpicked by a range top. I think this is more.
Yeah, we didn't talk
like,
about that when you asked the question previously. So let's dig into that a bit more. I'm sure you've probably heard my spiel about the frustration stuff because I've been like seeing it kind of like repeatedly on Twitter or on YouTube and stuff. But I'll just say it again, which is we think that there's some amount of healthy frustration that needs to exist in the game. If the players are always like kind of in a monoculture, like, oh, it's only ADCs in bot lane, for example, that doesn't lead to a very healthy long-term experience. It doesn't lead to a lot of variety. It doesn't lead to the game being interesting in the long term. And so we need some amount of stuff in there. And in the same way that, you know, when assassins were introduced into mid lane, I remember when Yasuo was released or when Zed was released, I was like, why are these champions invading my lane, right? Like every lane has kind of gone through this over time, and we think that overall you couldn't imagine mid lane without assassins in them right now. So that's like kind of the high level of like why we think roles need to have longevity and have a variety of experiences in them if we're going to be a game that sticks around for 100 years. So that's the first thing. Now, is there a point in frustration where we would say enough is enough? Like this thing needs to be nerfed? Like, yes, absolutely. Like, especially if there are very limited ways of counterplaying that, like roaming support, for example. Yes, we would take a swing at that. Certain manifestations of ranged top, where it's like, okay, imagine a ranged top laner who was, able to win every laning phase, also scaled into the late game and was tanky. It's like, okay, there are some champions that are actually kind of close to that right now, and it's like, okay, well, we should probably make them trade off something, whether it's damage or tankiness or something. So like on the fine-tuning level, there are always things that we can do, and we want to make sure that that balance is good. That said, there should be experiences in League that feel pretty spiky and can sometimes feel pretty bad to play against. In the same way that like if Rengar goes 8-0 and kind of snowballed and played well to get 8-0, I'm like, and if I get one shot, I'm not like, well, remove Rengar. I mean, I might in the moment be like, remove Rengar, but it's like also, it's important for those spiky experiences to exist. So do I think ranged tops right now are at the point where we would, kind of like hit them with a hammer? Maybe in some certain instances, like Vayne top with tanky builds is maybe one that comes to mind. But ranged tops as a whole, I think it's maybe a little bit over in terms of frustration to value it's providing to the game, but I don't think it's like massively over. Frustrating experiences need to exist in some way, shape, or form. So Anivia top was actually one that we nerfed a while ago, because it kind of violated some of this principles, right? Arguably, it might be still a bit strong, but in theory, it is a little easier to play against Anivia top than it was, 4 months ago.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's fair. I know a lot of people in chat will not agree with that and are very passionately not in agreement with that, but I think that makes sense from what you say. I just thought of something. I know I said I was going to give this last portion of my chat, but I actually thought of something huge that is on my mind whenever I watch pro play. The mid laners don't build damage, and that is strange to me as someone that has played mid lane, has played League for 16 years. It is strange to me that the most optimal way to itemize as a mid laner is to rush Swifties, come back to lane with 2 Ruby Crystals, rush Catalyst. You guys tweaked Proto Belt to have more of an HP profile rather than AP. Everyone's still building it. I feel like I'm going insane when I'm watching these mid lane trades and it's like Swifties Cassio versus like Swifties Catalyst and Anivia, and they're just slapping each other with wet noodles the whole time. So I guess my question is this just the way it's supposed to be? Is this something that you guys think is a problem? What do you guys think?
Certainly we don't like that, right? And one of the reasons why we nerfed Crushes on this patch and buffed Sork Shoes. I also think that, it's not every game that they're doing that, right?
Yeah, maybe not every single game. I would say
like 80% of Oriana's picks this patch is like Blackfire Torch.
So
it's like
okay. Anecdotally, it does feel like I see wet noodle fight build a lot in mid lane, but I don't have the stats here to pull up.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm just looking at Game of Legends quickly, but like Syndra does build Swifties a bit more than I think we would like or expect. Like 45% Swifties, 32% Lucidity. It's like that's one of the reasons why we're buffing Sorks, right?
I think you accidentally muted yourself.
Yeah, you got
yeah, 64% Cassio Treads is like, yeah, a bit high. Like, would rather she was building, I don't know. Well, I guess she's like mostly building Swifties, right? Otherwise.
Okay, got it. I just want to know if that was on your guys' radar or not.
Yeah, I don't think that conventional mages build Roa as much as like Cassio. We expect to build Roa, right? Like if Cassio's not building Roa, like something's probably wrong. It's more like if Ariana Victor Syndra building rower, then something's wrong, which it doesn't seem to be the case. At least from, you know, what I've observed and what I'm looking at right now. But yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna take one more question from chat, and then I think that is our full hour. So